ce soir pour vraiment un film que je crois que nous avons tous trouvé exceptionnel, enchanteur, The Shape of Water, la forme de l'eau. Et sans plus attendre, je vous demande d'accueillir Guillermo Del Toro. Alexandre Desplat pour la musique également Thank you so much for being with us today and bringing such an enchanting film, for lack of a better word, Guillermo. I mean, really, juste comme ça, another round of applause. Allez, juste pour le plaisir. Voilà.
One round of applause for the projections who turned on the light.
Exactly. Yes. Well, you know, obviously, seeing that film and even feeling it, I was wondering how long you nurtured it in your mind, in your dreams, in your head, and why give it ultimately the wonderful poetic name, The Shape of Water.
Well, you know, when I was 6 years old, I was watching a creature from the Black Lagoon, and I saw the creature swimming underneath Julie Adams in her white bathing suit, and I was 6, but I fell in love with Julie Adams, and then I fell in love with the creature, and then I fell in love with the idea of love between them, and I thought, at that age, I thought, I hope they end up together, living together. I don't know where or how, but I hope they do, and they didn't. And to me, that movie is like a home invasion. The creature is happily at home, and these guys come in and take over his home and kill him. And I thought it was the most unfair movie I've ever seen. And it took 46 years to remedy that mistake. But I thought the Shape of Water is, to me, it comes from an idea that is in the Tao, and it's and Bruce Lee rephrased it, but the Tao says is the nature of life to be flexible and the nature of death to be rigid. You know, that which bends will never break, that which is rigid will die. And then it talks about water, and Bruce Lee said water is the most powerful element in the universe. It is flexible and has no shape. It takes the shape of whatever it occupies, and yet it can break through steel, rock, anything. And that is love, for me. Love is exactly like that. It has no form. You don't control who you fall in love with. You know, whatever religion, race, creed, gender, you can be struck by love at any time, and it's a force that can break through everything. And in this day and age in which everything is hatred and fear and ideology that separates us, I wanted to make a beautiful fable, a fairy tale, that talked about love, not in a disingenuous way, in an emotional way, because I think that we are so afraid of emotion these days, you know? And to me, emotion is the new punk. It's the thing where you risk, and you are brave, and you do it, and you know, you're not afraid of being branded this or that. And you know, fairy tales were born for troubled times. They were not kids that were done for things that were done for children. They were done for difficult moments, and this is one of them.
Alexandre Desplat, bien sûr, vous êtes un grand cinéphile, vous connaissez bien le cinéma, le langage du cinéma. Vous avez même, ce qui est assez exceptionnel, été président du jury du Festival de Venise, qui était la première fois pour un compositeur. Comment est-ce que vous-même vous êtes rentré dans l'univers de Guillermo Del Toro? Comment est-ce que vous avez finalement écrit une musique aussi fluide finalement que cette histoire, que ces personnages?
S'il vous plaît.
Gracias. I answer in English or
En français.
Ah, en
Français,
français.
je comprends très bien.
Voilà.
Oui.
Un peu.
C'est super compliqué alors.
Oui,
non, mais vous l'avez dit, c'est quand j'ai vu le film pour la première fois, j'ai dit à Guillermo que c'était un film avec un flow ininterrompu, et donc extrêmement musical. La musique, c'est un objet qui part de A vers Z et qui peut s'interrompre et qui reprend sa course. Et Et que ce serait donc pour moi que les deux challenges pour moi seraient de à la fois trouver des motifs ou des mélodies qui aient la forme de l'eau et trouver une orchestration qui fasse aussi référence à l'eau, tout simplement. Alors on a parlé beaucoup d'idées, de choses, et puis on s'est retrouvés quelques mois plus tard pour vraiment se mettre au travail. Et c'est vraiment très intime la relation avec un metteur en scène comme Guillermo, parce qu'il est rempli de passion et d'idées, de désirs, et il vous la communique, forcément. Donc là, j'ai cherché longtemps avant de trouver un objet qui me semblait qualifié dans cette course à l'eau, et je lui ai fait écouter, et voilà, c'était le début de la partition que j'ai pu construire à partir de ça.
Je crois que Guillermo est même venu, ce qui est très rare chez lui, assister à l'enregistrement. Vous aviez vraiment besoin de sa présence, si je puis dire, tangible,
bien sûr,
pour être là aussi,
oui,
avec lui.
J'ai réussi à obliger Guillermo à faire quelque chose qu'il ne voulait pas faire, je ne le fais jamais, mais pour moi c'est très important.
Jamais?
Non, jamais. C'est un bon mot, jamais. C'est très important l'interprétation dans l'enregistrement d'une musique. N'oubliez pas que la même musique jouée par 20 musiciens différents, ou même 3 orchestres différents avec des chefs d'orchestre différents, ce ne sera pas la même interprétation, ce ne sera pas la même chose. Donc, moi je dirige l'orchestre, bien sûr, mais c'est important que le metteur en scène puisse me dire « Ah, mais là, quand même, on pourrait faire un peu plus, un peu moins. Si on entendait un peu plus telle partie, telle section d'orchestre. » Il y avait un orchestre un peu bizarre, il y avait 12 flûtes, parce que je voulais que cette sonorité...
Pizza is ready.
Shall we have it on stage?
Ah,
Oh là là.
oh là là.
Ouh là là.
Donc voilà, on pouvait... Ah, ça continue. Voilà, il fallait qu'on puisse travailler au plus près, en studio.
Alors bien sûr, les questions sont pour vous. Qui veut? Là-bas, bien sûr. N'hésitez pas à vous lever, qu'on vous voit.
So, Guillermo, I think I noticed that your credit as one of the voices of the creature. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Excellent.
I always do the creature voices. I mean, not all the totality. Nathan did the chirpy ones, you know, the happy ones. I do the agonizing ones, the pain ones, when he's lacking breathing, you know.
Did you have to process the sound?
A little. We pitch it up or down. We don't do anything extreme. You know, we mix it with a dolphin. We mix it with a whale. You know, the whale and I are closely related. So, you know, it fuses very well. But I do it in every movie.
The chirping sound is you?
No, that's Nathan.
Okay.
I am more the suffering creature. But, you know, like in Pacific Rim, I'm the kaijus. On Pan's Labyrinth, I'm the fairies and the pale man. On Kronos, I'm the insect. And Mimic, I'm the bugs, you know. That's all, you know. And
Are you doing that in post, or are you doing it
no, in post. No, if I did it during the shoot, I would be insane. Here comes the bug. Yes, of course it comes there.
Question ici. N'hésitez pas à vous lever, si vous voulez bien. Voilà.
First, thank you both of them. Brilliant one in probably a lifetime, I suppose.
Thank you.
Got one question for both of you. What paved the way to that film? Do you think you could have directed it or did the score to it at any other point in your career?
No, to me, absolutely not. In fact, when people say, why don't you do more movies like Devil's Backbone or Panzer, because I don't have them, you know? It's not like I have a drawer full of them. They come to you and they literally grab you and tell you, you have to make me. It happens like that. I was prepping Pacific, I was shooting Pacific Rim 1 when the idea, when the key to the movie appeared. I was having breakfast with Daniel Krauss, and he said that idea, what about a janitor falling in love with a creature and thinking, oh my God, that's it. I didn't want to do the big story of the heroes, the scientists, the secret agents. I wanted to tell it from the small story point of view. It's like saying Waterloo from the point of view of the guy that presses the trousers of Napoleon. That's more interesting to me than Napoleon or Wellington or any of these stories. So I said that's the way to go into the story, through the small people, the invisible people. Thematically, everything fell into place. And this is a movie in which I think is post-therapy, post-50-year-old crisis, post 25 years of working. Is tonally an incredibly difficult movie, because I'm basically doing a thriller, melodrama, musical, all in one, and the acting needs to be in the same tone. If an actor is playing for one of the genres, or not all of them, it doesn't work. Obviously, writing it is very difficult, but then the camera, which is shot like a musical and like a classical film, the camera needs to not go only in one direction. Because then it becomes a thriller section, a comedy section. So all of these things need to be fluid, like water. I don't want to, no pun intended, but very fluid, because then the transitions are incredibly entertaining and charming, but they are not artificial. But it's very, very difficult. The light, when people say great cinematography, they're saying great production design, great wardrobe. It's a four-legged table. So I need to make sure that the art direction is tonally right. Like, the movie is not realistic, but if I go too much above reality, it is destroyed. If I make it too realistic and I put a creature in the middle, it doesn't work. So, I think I needed every single day of those 25 years of work to be able to do it,
Et vous, Alexandre, est-ce que vous pensez que vous auriez pu...
Non, en français, je dirais la même chose. J'ai toujours l'impression que les partitions que j'écris arrivent au moment où je suis prêt. Je ne pense pas qu'il y a certains... Enfin, je vois très bien, si je regarde derrière ma filmographie, que certains films, j'aurais été incapable de les mettre en musique, parce que j'étais pas assez fort, ou pas assez concerné par le sujet du film, ou trop fatigué. Mais là, je pense que j'étais prêt pour ce film-là, à ce moment-là, émotionnellement et techniquement, tout ça.
Vous étiez même prêt à faire un whistle.
Ah oui.
Ce qui est quand même la première fois, je crois, de votre grande carrière, Alexandre.
Non, ça m'est arrivé de siffler avant déjà. Et moins bien.
Ah, moins bien.
J'étais vraiment au top du sifflet.
we found the whistle, we found in the sessions at his studio. And the idea was to create a movie that evoked classical movies. And when he said, what composers would you say would be ideal? Obviously him, but I said George Delarue and Nino Rota. And because Delarue was very emotional without being sentimental. And we thought that between a Mexican and a Frenchman, we could find a good point of sentimentality, of emotionality without sentimentality. And one of the things, we were trying different instruments for that, what would you say, phrase, or what, how would you call it?
The melody, yeah.
That melody, and all of a sudden I said, why don't you whistle it? Because in the 50s and 60s, those scores had whistling, and it worked beautifully, and he's the whistler.
No, but also the character played by Stanley Hopkins,
she whistles.
She whistles a little bit when she's waiting for the bus, so it all suddenly it made sense. We just found it, maybe 2 years before, we might not have found that.
Question. Au micro. Oui.
Your movies are very greatly written. Did you have the cast in mind when you were writing? And also, which actor surprised you the most among all the cast?
Surprised. I wrote it for Sally, I wrote it for Michael Shannon, and I wrote it for Octavia Spencer and Doug Jones, specifically. Doug, because I know him very, very well. We've been together since 1997. We've been working together on miming. Octavia, because I think no one is more human than Octavia. And Shannon, because he is capable of hitting notes of grace and notes of menace within the same performance. But Sally, which is the really long story and the really long lead, I saw a BBC series called Fingersmith, and in it she fell in love with a woman, and it was just a piece of information. It didn't define the series, it was not about that, but it was such a beautiful, natural passion, and she played it like, I love this woman, and that's it. I love this woman, I go to the supermarket, I wear clothes, it's a fact. And I thought that was very necessary, because this is not a movie about the girl getting the fish, you know? It's a movie about they fall in love and then they do make love. But it's not the central point. It's just because I wanted, in the Beauty and the Beast portrait, I didn't want the beauty to be a fucking Disney princess, you know? I wanted her to masturbate in the morning and make eggs and shine the shoes, and I didn't want the Beast to become a fucking prince, you know? Because to me, the essence of love is don't change me. You love me, don't change me. And why? You know, it's like buying a motorcycle and putting in 2 more wheels. It's a horrible, horrible process in many love stories. And I thought, let's make a movie where the Beast eats a cat and doesn't care and is feral all the way through, but is also the reason why she recognizes an essence of herself in it. And after Fingersmith, I saw her in Happy Go Lucky, and I thought she has a state of grace that is beautiful, that reminded me of silent comedians like Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Stan Laurel with Laurel and Hardy. And when we started working, I gave her all those Blu-rays, and I said, study Stan Laurel, because Stan Laurel has a way of looking and a way of being in a state of grace that is not stupidity, it's almost like a divine grace, you know. And then I saw her in a movie called Submarine, and she was a secondary character, but she looked and listened. And I think those are the 2 things. People think that great actors deliver dialogue, but that's not true. The great actors listen, and great actors look at the other actor or things as if they were new. Because we spent 3 years designing and sculpting the creature, but I can put it in front of an actor that doesn't look at it the way Sally looked at it, and it doesn't work. So I thought she has all the capacity, and I wrote it because I thought it's a complete travesty that no one's writing stellar parts for this actress, who is, I think, the most luminous, fantastic face in cinema today, you know. And so I called her agent like 3 years before, and I said, I want you to tell Sally I'm writing a part for her. We didn't know each other. And the agent said, yeah, sure, you know. And then later, we met at a party. I never go to parties. I was watching Antiques Roadshow in my socks, and Alfonso Cuarón called me and said, Alejandro and I are gonna go to the party, come, we're gonna get drunk. I go, oh, I don't drink. I said, I'm watching Antiques Roadshow. And he said, no, it's very rare that we get together, and much rarer that we get drunk. He says, how many times can we get together, the 3 of us, in the same place? I go, if I'm gonna get drunk, I'm not gonna drive, I'm not going. He said, I'll send you a car. Oh. So he sends a car, I go there. Now I'm fat, and my body mass requires huge amounts of alcohol to even start to get drunk, and it goes away in 20 minutes. I can be completely drunk, and 20 minutes later I could be assembling a watch, you know. So I arrive and I say, are you really want to drink? Yes, we are. I say, okay, I'm going to start and I'll catch up with you. And I went and drank 14 tequilas. And then I go, okay, let's start. And they go, no, we decided we're not going to drink. We're going to go to another party. I go, goodbye. And I started heading for the car, and I see Sally Hawkins. And that's the first time we met. And I say, I'm writing a movie in which you fall in love with a fish. And the reason I know she was the one, she said, fantastic. But then, you know, I sent her the writing, and she responded, an incredible coincidence. She says, I'm writing a short story in which a woman turns into a fish. And I thought, that's really great. And can I use details from your story in the screenplay? And she said, absolutely. And then we started working together. We worked very, very close, way into early pre-production, months and months, like 6, 7, 8 months before. On the tap dancing, the signing, I said, I'm gonna write you a monologue in sign language, with Giles repeating it. And I want you to do it percussive, hit your chest, hit the hand, make it vehement, but make it second nature, blah, blah, blah. And we work very, very closely, very closely.
Yes? Where's the mic? Ah, ici.
Yeah, hi. I had. Sorry.
It's 2 mics.
Two at the same time.
Oh my God.
You can handle it.
I got scared.
It seemed to me that you put an emphasis on one of the themes was the future that was coming in the ads, the ad that he's painting, and
100%.
the Cadillac salesman.
Yeah.
I was wondering what was that pointing towards? Is that a way of saying that the true future is not jetpacks, is unconditional universal love?
Great question, and thank you for noticing. I mean, the way I color code the movie is cyan and blue is for Sally and underwater. If you notice, her apartment looks like it's underwater all the time. It has wet stains. Giles doesn't. I took a window from a movie called Red Shoes from Michael Powell, and I took that exact window and divided it in two. So these are two hemispheres of the same character, you know. But Giles is air. That's why it's in gold and daylight. And if you see the movie again, most of the time his apartment is in daylight, even when hers is at night. And that tells you a little bit. And part of that was, I said, the color of the future will be green. The only time we use red, for example, is life, love, and movies, which are the same thing for me. So the theater, the door that leads to the outside, the blood, you know, he's bleeding on the left when he first meets her. She's bleeding on the right when she ends. Then when they make love, she gets the shoes, she gets a hairband, a sweater, and eventually the overcoat in red. Like it takes over life and love and cinema. But the green, the important thing is 1962 is today. I mean, if the movie is not about 62, it's about now. And 62 is a crucial year in America because in the post-World War abundance, America hits an unusually progressive, economically progressive moment. Houses in the suburbs with a jet fin car in every garage, TV dinners, automatic kitchens, hairspray and petticoat wives that have nothing to do, have leisure time. And it's all the space race, the future, Kennedy in the White House. It's all full of promise. And it is full of promise if you are white, Anglo-Saxon, heterosexual male. The rest doesn't get quite a good deal, you know? So it's exactly like now. And when people say, let's make America great again, they're dreaming of that Madison Avenue invented future that never came to be. It never happened. It was going to happen and Kennedy gets shot. And Vietnam escalates. And it's destroyed. And it's a negative space that is used as a conceptual carrot in front of the horse of history. So people think, why don't I have? And the answer, you know, there are two answers that are given. One is the real one. The 1% of the population controls 85% of the wealth. And then the other one that they use to divide and control us. It's the others. You're not guilty. The fault is the Mexicans, the immigrants, the African, whoever. That's why you don't have money. Oh, so it's not the 1%. It's not that they fucking control the 85%. It's the others. Okay. And when they buy that, they dehumanize the other, and they allow people to hate. So this movie is about it's love, but it's not just romantic love. It's to embrace and recognize yourself on the other, which the creature is the other. The creature is the most other, this patron saint of otherness, you know? And to each of the characters, the creature is different. To Eliza, she recognizes her essence, which eventually is revealed at the end of the movie. For Giles, he's a god, you know? To the scientist is a natural beauty, and to Strickland is a filthy dark thing that comes from South America. Not very subtle, but real, you know?
Question ici.
Thank you for this masterpiece.
Thank you.
I am a monster lover, and this is a dream come true.
Thank you.
I have a question about the photography, because I feel like the photography tells the story as the use of color. The color green tells the story for me as the use of water. And I would like to know why movement is so important in your cinema, in general.
Well, it started out of horror, like in Mimic, and on Kronos I did some moves, but mostly the camera was on a tripod, or on a dolly, very discreet. Then on Mimic, I was tortured into moving the camera, because basically every day the note from the studio is move the camera, and I started I said I'll move it, but I'll move it the way I want, because back then the vogue was Steadicam all the time, and I thought I'm gonna do it like a symphony, like if I'm on an over shoulder, I'm gonna be going jib up, pushing jib up, and if I'm on the other side, I'm gonna be pulling back and going down, and I started doing counter movements in action, and eventually I go, I like this, I like it, I actually like it, and I ended up from Mimic on, in the entirety of my filmography, there may be 4 shots on a tripod in my entire filmography, and I cannot think of the 4th one. But then on Devil's Backbone, it became a style. I wanted the camera to be like a child, looking always at low height, looking over the shoulder of the characters, like a kid trying to listen to a conversation between adults. And then on this one, I tried to shoot it like a musical. The way the movie opens and so forth and so on, it's very much like a musical, like a Stanley Donen musical, with roaming camera synchronizing with the actors on a crane all the time. Is really quite beautiful and classic. I'm not a formal innovator. I marvel at Alfonso and Alejandro when they do single shots that last 10, 15 minutes, or a whole movie. It's amazing to me. I'm more interested in, I'm interested in William Wellman, Frank Borsagi, William Wyler. I am very classic in that, and I want to bring the sense that the story is so deranged that I want to do the formal aspect in a classical, beautiful way. Now the camera, the way Dan Laustron lights is beautiful. We talked early on, and we decided single light through the sources, window, lamp, bounces, and a very, very strong layer of black, because black obviously, then we color correct the hell out of it, but the black needs to be always solid, because black is going to always saturate your color palette. And if you lose the black, you leach the color out of your palette. And then, the colors are classified months and months before anyone shows up. I work with a very small crew that I call the Submarine. It can be anything from 1 to 4 artists, and I work for 6 months designing the sets. And that doesn't mean the production designer will not add. It will add, in some instances, throw away. But when the cinematographer and the production designer show up, I have an album of 40, 60 images already with the sets the way I see them, the color palette, and so forth, and then we start working. You have to have an idea as a departure point. But Dan Laustron is, for me, one of the great cinematographers working today. And the way he knows exactly what filter what gel we're gonna use in the camera. I discovered with him and Mimic, when we were designing the color palette, we discovered a beautiful gel called Steel Blue. And that is what we use at night. It's not blue, it's like a green. And we started using variations of green gels here and there, or change the color temperature and color correction, so the movie has a uniformity and a balance and a flow.
Je dois dire quand même que la fluidité des mouvements de caméra, c'était pour moi aussi un élément majeur de la composition. La caméra ne s'arrête jamais, elle est tout le temps en mouvement, du début jusqu'à la fin, il n'y a pas un seul plan fixe. Et donc la musique surfe là-dessus avec facilité, tout est facile, aucun enchaînement n'est douloureux.
Alors justement, en parlant de cela, je sais qu'il y a un moment très important où on pose la musique et on décide à quel moment elle va s'arrêter ou au contraire reprendre. Est-ce que justement, par rapport à cette fluidité, c'était un défi presque supplémentaire, cette liberté justement dans le silence?
Je me souviens qu'à un moment, on s'était dit avec Guillermo que peut-être la musique était un flow ininterrompu. C'est-à-dire qu'on ne devait presque pas l'apercevoir, qu'elle disparaît et puis qu'elle réapparaisse, comme si elle était passée undercurrent, et puis qu'elle revienne. Et c'était un peu ça le projet. Évidemment, on n'a pas mis de la musique du début à la fin, des chansons, etc. Mais c'était un peu cette idée-là, que la musique pouvait apparaître et disparaître sans qu'on s'en rende compte.
D'ailleurs, je crois que Guillermo disait aussi qu'il voulait un petit peu que, par exemple, le thème des valses soit comme une valse. Hein, vous avez vraiment aussi travaillé sur cette idée-là, je crois.
Là aussi, il y a un mouvement perpétuel.
Ah, c'est ça.
Oui, bien sûr, un rebond qui ne s'arrête pas.
Oui, et puis la créature, les flûtes, qui
Oui,
est votre instrument, vos premiers amours, si je puis dire, la flûte, là, vous en...
But the theme of the creature, when we were trying to figure it out, we were talking about how can we evoke a god. And there is a biblical movie in the theater. So we went for a sort of Egyptian archaic motif.
Et je me suis rendu compte, je n'en étais pas rendu compte, pourtant c'était vraiment inconscient, je me suis rendu compte en travaillant sur le mixage de la musique que le thème que j'ai écrit, qui est le thème du début du film, l'ouverture, en fait ce sont des arpèges en forme de vague.
The trick with the movie and the music is to make it feel lush and big. The movie is done for $19.5 million. And I wanted it to look like a $60 million movie and to sound like a gigantic, unlimited scoring. And in both instances, we needed to be very ingenious to make it, and very tortuous. This is one of the worst experiences I've ever had, logistically. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Creatively, everything that could go right went right. But it was horror, putrid, absolutely repugnant every day. Everything was short, everything was, we had everything, the weather was horrible, everything, accidents. I almost got run over twice. When Strickland arrives to the house at the end and climbs the stairs, that's take one. And take two, he forgot to put the car in parking, and the car kept going, and it crashed. It was heading exactly for me. I was in the monitor, and Michael jumped into the car and grabbed the wheel, and the car dragged him, and he let go of the wheel, and it went through one lamppost, and the post fell down in a shower of sparks, and then the second lamppost, and a shower of sparks, and they tell me, run, the car is coming for you, and I never run. I can't. I'd rather die than look ridiculous. So I said, fuck it, I'm gonna die. And the car was finally stopped by the final post. And the beauty of it is that those two posts were in the way of my crane. So I got a crane. I was able to do the shot.
Question là-bas.
Hello, first congratulations about the movie. You decided to give a huge place to cinema and television, especially everything that comes in mind when it comes to the 60s. And even the movie, we can see that it's tainted and worked as a film noir. Even the music, votre musique, elle est très orchestrale. Why did you choose to give such a huge place to this, to pop culture in a way?
Well, what I wanted was to present the way the period was defining itself. So you have this, and the movie is in love with two things: love and cinema. The movie is passionately in love with cinema. It's classical cinema, and I didn't want it to be. The mistake would be to go through the floor and see Singing in the Rain or Citizen Kane, because then it's a postmodern bullshit that is in love with great cinema. No, I'm in love with cinema, crappy cinema, Sunday cinema, the one that you watch when you were a kid. You went, let's see what they're playing. That's the way we went to the cinema when I was a kid. Let's go to the theater and see what's playing. What was it? It was Tarzan and his bride, or it was a Hammer movie. It made no difference to us. We walked in the middle of the movie. I was not like Woody Allen. We would walk in the middle of a movie and stay until it started again.
That's in Mexico, huh?
Mexico, yeah. You know, it was the same price for 2 movies. So, you know, but I because cinema, films have saved my life many times, and not necessarily great movies. You know, you react to a movie that can become cherished for you, even if it's bad. A bad melodrama when you need it is great, you know. So I wanted to do that, and I think I wanted to show the super giant, kind of crappy epic of the story of Ruth, which thematically is relevant to the movie, but is sort of a subpar Cecil B. DeMille, you know, in contrast with Dobie Gillis and Bonanza and Mr. Magoo on TV, you know, which is completely the opposite. You know, it was, is the way the 60s were commingled, a Shirley Temple movie on TV, and you grab TV Guide and you look when was it started and you mark it, and I wanted to, we did a huge amount of research in this movie, huge, and then we took all the design and elevated it into being a couple of notches above reality. And media was part of that. You know, the media was part of portraying the era and how it was defining itself culturally. It was very important for me to have the scene with the Cadillac vendor. You know, when he's pitching the Cadillac, and he says, "This is it. This is this is for the man of the future, and you're that man." You know, because it's the way the era was defining itself. So, very important for me.
And the music had to follow. La musique devait aussi se fondre dans cet univers-là. Si j'avais écrit une musique électronique, elle aurait été absolument indigeste avec le reste du menu, avec la comédie musicale, avec les musiques de télévision. Il fallait qu'elle se marie à tout ça.
Question ici.
Oui, bonsoir. Alors je vais la faire en français. D'abord merci pour ce film absolument fantastique. Il y a quelque chose qui m'a vachement marqué dans ce film, c'est l'évolution des doigts de Michael Shannon tout au long du film. Donc il y a le moment où il triture ses doigts purulents qui vont tomber, et le moment où il se les arrache. Et moi je suis toujours fascinée dans les films par ces scènes où on ressent vraiment une douleur intense en fait, quand on voit voilà, des personnages se triturer, des blessures. Et en fait je me demandais comment est-ce qu'on tourne ce genre de scène, comment on travaille ce genre de scène pour qu'elle soit, pour que vis-à-vis du spectateur ce soit physiquement douloureux en fait.
Okay.
It's real, huh?
I think I got it.
It's real.
But give me the second part, because she's fat.
Oh, sorry.
Right?
No, how do you manage to bring the pain through the screen while it's faking?
It is?
Yeah.
Well, what happened is Shannon is the most delicate character in the movie in a way, because your sympathies are with Sally, your sympathies are with Giles. Those are, it's not that they're easy, it's that their actions, you know, an antagonist for me, the best antagonist is the guy whose goals and principles are at odds with the protagonist, but who would never define himself in terrible terms. So when he talks to the general, he says, "How many times does a man have to prove himself, sir? A good man, a decent man." That's how he sees himself. You know, now he's a depraved, kinky, sexist, racist motherfucker, but he doesn't see himself as that. I don't think he can. And what I do with, I try to define him by, not very subtle, by relating his hands to his dick. You know, he washes them to touch it. Then his wife says, "Wash them before we fuck." You know, and then he loses this, and it starts getting worse and worse and worse until he rips it. You know, and I think that's the moment where you know he will never stop. You know, when he crosses that barrier, what he's telling you is, from now till the movie ends, I don't give a shit about the general. I don't give a shit about the structure. I don't give a shit about me or my dick. I'm gonna get this creature no matter what. That's what it's trying to say. Now, I'm really good at pain in the movies. It's not that I enjoy it. I want the audience to feel it, because we have 100 years of movie violence that doesn't hurt. and sometimes it amuses us. Sometimes you go, yeah, cool. No, and if there's an act of violence, in Pan's Labyrinth, the bottle breaking the nose, and Crimson Peak, the teeth against the wash basin, I want the audience to feel it, rather than enjoy it or clap or, and that moment, what I said to him is, do it like a chicken wing. I said, twist it like a chicken wing. Because everybody has torn a chicken wing. Everybody. And that is the same that when, if you stab somebody here in a movie, it's like the Bruce Willis injury, with a little bit of blood. It's a Bruce Willis injury. It can be it can be Hiddleston, it can be any hero is gonna get the Bruce Willis injury. But if I stab Tom Hiddleston with a knife here, you're gonna go, oh,
Yeah.
Or if I stab Eduardo Noriega in the armpit on Devil's Backbone with a lance, you're gonna go, oh, because since you have never seen that injury, you have to work. You have to imagine how it feels, and immediately you go, ugh. It's the same with that when he grabs the chick with the hole, or in Pan's Labyrinth when he has to sew his own cheek, These are because what I think is not great is to show the violence and for audience to not feel it, unless that's the point. Like Blade 2 is like a musical with Gene Kelly, with head exploding. I don't need you to feel it. It's like it's like kabuki, Was that the answer?
Yeah.
Okay, because I understood the first part. And
sorry.
I didn't understand anything except when you did that.
Yeah, the terrible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci.
Question là-bas. Vous avez le micro? Oui.
Hi. Sorry. I have to thank you. My turn to thank you for the movie. My question is for the both of you. Why did you choose, of course, Mr. Desplat, you are a French composer, but why did you choose to incorporate so much French touch or touches into the movie with the use of accordion, of the Serge Gainsbourg cover, and in French language? Why did you choose the French language or French instruments to illustrate this particularly romantic story?
I can easily answer. To me, accordion is not French.
Okay.
To me, accordion is everywhere. In Italy, in France, in Ireland, in Argentina as the bandoneon. And the sound I use of the accordion is not French. If you listen to composers who use an accordion to sound French, they take the sound of a musette, which is with different registers. Je parle anglais, c'est pas grave. But for this one, I took the sound of an accordion with the pure sound like a bandoneon. So it sounds actually not French, but South American. So you hear an accordion, you think it's French, but you're wrong. You're fired.
The Gainsborough.
And the Gainsbourg, it's him.
Yeah, Gainsborough.
It's you?
Yeah, I said this is my French movie.
Voilà.
Voilà. So this is my French movie, and I wrote the movie with Georges Delarue playing and with La Javanaise, both the original and the new one. The Madeleine Peru, because I thought. And with You'll Never Know. Those were, I have a little selection in my iTunes that said fish. And that was it. It was Georges Delarue, Madeleine Peru, Gainsborough, and so forth.
Georges Delarue.
Georges Delarue.
Delarue.
L'eau. Un peu de l'eau. Ouf.
Pardon. Et les phrases d'accordéon, si vous les écoutez attentivement, c'est du tango.
Ouf, brûlé.
Brûlé. Brouillé.
Ouf, brûlé.
C'est difficile.
Merci.
Je vous en prie.
But I thought the wordplay in La Javanaise is so beautiful, and I think the lyrics are so ingenious, and the way she sings it is so perfect. I knew that was the moment when they made love, That is the most difficult moment to shoot in the movie. It's like when I shot Devil's Backbone, the makeup of the ghost is perfect, We painted the wall. We took about 3 weeks to paint the wall behind the ghost in Devil's Backbone the first time we see him. So it looked like water. But then comes the time when the kid is in the set, the camera is gonna roll, and I go, how does he move? How do we do this? And I shot him in reverse, I shot him, because all of a sudden, if you don't do it right, it's a kid on makeup walking. And the audience goes, what the hell is that? So to light that scene, to light the creature, every time the creature comes out of the water, the exercise of lighting it with cross lighting, rim, little bounds, it's a product shot. It's like illuminating a car or a plate of food for a commercial. It takes a long, long time, but that scene took half a day. When she takes her robe off and when she enters and she's in the threshold, I said to Lauston, do not show her face. Let's have a black bar and her face is half in shadows, because I don't want to see her expression when she starts disrobing. It adds mystery and beauty. And then when we got to the reverse, we changed lenses 3 or 4 times until it was the perfect lens. And we lit it for about 4 hours so that the creature and her would look perfect. And that's the moment, you know. You may, because of the tone of the movie, you may have somebody here, somebody there, escaping from that moment or chuckling or whispering, whatever, but the audience stays. And that was very, very difficult to do.
And in the Javanese, there is a sentence that says, nous aimions le temps d'une chanson. Et c'est exactement ce qui se passe.
Yeah.
Ils écoutent des chansons ensemble. Ils sont très amoureux.
Ouf, brouillé.
Question, s'il vous plaît.
Question. Là-bas. Ah ben, vous reviendrez vers vous, monsieur.
It's your musical movie, you say. Even if your next project is not a musical, do you think you're going to work again with Desplat? Do you feel like you're going to?
if he helps me with my French, he's fucking destroyed me. He spoiled me for anybody else. Like, our collaboration has been the best collaboration I've ever had with a composer in my life. So, you know, I don't know. Great. And if he accepts euros or pesos, I'll do it.
If you don't build a wall between Mexico and France.
Something will happen.
And I have another good question. In the credits,
Is he gonna collaborate with me?
Never.
Never.
in the post credit, you thank at director Edgar Wright, and he also did kind of a musical this year. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, there's a small story. I mean, Alfonso is the people that read the screenplay and gave me their opinion. Edgar's opinion was, I like it all. But he gave me his opinion, you know. And every time they read it, like Jim Cameron read it, gave me a couple of notes. The Coen brothers read it, gave me a couple of notes. In fact, they gave me one great line. As Lenin said, there's no profit in last week's fish. That's them, you know. So anybody that read the screenplay and gave me an opinion that somewhat helped is there. Alfonso did. Alejandro had a couple of really great notes on the script and the project, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's people that I do the same in their movies and get a thank you credit, so I gotta correspond, you know. Sometimes they come in and they edit the movie with me and they have ideas that are bigger. And this one, everybody was busy, but some of those ideas came through. The Coens also had one line on the speech about, he says, you will be in a different universe, a universe of shit. There was an outline in the universe with your form in it. Like those 3 beats, I think they were there. They came up with that.
Question ici.
Yes. So you said you're 52.
53 now.
53.
As of 2 days ago.
So you were born in 65.
61, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. I accept gifts and drinks anytime. 53, 1964, October 9th.
So how did you time travel to the 50s, and why time travel to the 50s?
Well, 62, the movie 62, which is exactly when they kill, Kennedy is gonna die, is gonna be killed very soon. I tried different eras, like Devil's Backbone was necessary to be in 1932, and Pan Slavin needed to coincide with Normandy, and the post-war. So Hitchcock used to say movies that happen anywhere matter nowhere. That is like typical co-production somewhere in America, and then it's a horrible action movie with God knows who, you know. But if you make it San Francisco, Seattle, New York, and you scout specifically, you find, like, can you imagine Bullet anywhere but San Francisco? No. So the same happens with the period. The period is going to give you a music, TV, a culture. Like specifically in 1962, there are choices aesthetically that I hate, but I embrace them and I make them mine, like mosaic, tile, murals. You know, like that they're in the workplace and in the publicity agency. You know, there are these horrible tile murals, but they represent exactly that period. You know, I don't like it, but it makes me give it reality or verisimilitude. You know, and it's very important politically for me what year it happens. You know, it shouldn't be casual. That's why I love that Mike Mignola said Hellboy origin in World War II. Hellboy is born in my movie 9th of October, and she's gonna release the creature 9th of October. So that's, now you know.
Bullet could be in Montmartre, no?
In Montmartre, yeah.
Avec de l'accordion?
Killing accordion, people playing accordion, and mine.
I think this is a beautiful way to end this conversation. Merci à vous deux. Thank you all.